Well, welcome to Student Dream TV, where we're bringing you the best money, investing, and startup tips for you to secure the bag before and after graduation. As we continue on our keynote series, where you get to hear from business leaders, entrepreneurs, and investors on how you can make money during and after COVID-19, we're here today to talk with one of my friends and mentors and advisors of my company, Student Dream, Bill King, who's worked in the world of business for over 40 years and just brings a wealth of knowledge for us to learn from and a lot of insights for to help navigate this new normal that we're in. So if you want to continue to learn how to thrive during and after this crisis, keep listening.
Good afternoon, Nana. It's great to see you again, and good afternoon all out there. So.
Yes, great to see you as well, Bill. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for considering me.
Absolutely. So I think we can just start off by you giving a quick introduction of yourself, who you are, where you're from, where you're from, and what your background is in.
Goodness. Well, who I am is Bill King. I'm currently the CFO of a mid-sized firm called Brookwood Companies Incorporated, which is located in Madison Avenue in New York. I've spent 9 years with them. I've spent many nonprofit years with the New York City Leadership Center for a couple of years, and I spent 27 years with Motorola throughout my largest part of my career and when I began. I have traveled all over the country and lived all over the country, from born and raised in Maryland. I went to University of Maryland. I have lived in Chicago, Dallas, Florida, New Jersey, New York, and now in Pennsylvania. So yeah, but so working in New York. So
okay, great. So you've been all around the country. So I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a great experience. So.
Great. And I think that's awesome, especially just given the current state of affairs. There's so much changing. Some people are considering leaving the city, staying in the cities. But all that being said, I would love to hear just your initial thoughts on just the COVID-19 and as it relates to the changing world of business and how that affects some of our students who are watching today, thinking about, man, what in the world am I going to do as I prepare for my future?
Yeah, when you look at what's going on in the world events, that they're unprecedented. Never before have we seen something like this. I mean, even in the world wars, there were countries that weren't affected, but every country's been affected by this.
Right.
So it's just absolutely unprecedented. But I don't want to discount the loss and the sorrow. It's just been horrific in that regard, with the lives that have been taken, the lives that have been disrupted, people who are out of work and unemployed right now, having trouble to make ends meet. It's just terrible. But I have to say, I think there's hope here, because there's never been such a disruption ever before. You hear about business disruptors a lot of times in the business, like the cell phone disrupted a whole industry. And it was a great disruptor, or Google, or apps, etc. Microsoft were just great disruptors and changed the whole world as we know it. Right. And we can go on and on. But I think what's fascinating to me is that this is such a disruptor. New opportunities are going to come out of this like never before. And there is the hope that I look forward to, is that it's going to create a whole new world and a whole new set of jobs and a whole new set of opportunities. And all the young people that are coming out have got a great vision to what that could be. If you sit in the audience and to the audience out there, I bet you got 4 or 5 new ideas that you'd love to try out in the marketplace that you never thought of before the COVID happened. And so I do take great hope that when this thing gets settled down, it will change the whole way we look at our markets and our businesses and everything. So,
wow.
Yeah. So great opportunities are out there for the young and the aggressive. So
great opportunities. That's really important, because perspective is everything. And so can you tell me about some of the opportunities that you see?
Well, I mean, if we just step back a little bit, did we ever think about social distancing? Did we ever think about And I'm not answering your question specifically, but did we ever think about floor stripings, things on the floor, or
Wow.
or how to clean your apartment or business or whatever to actually get the virus out if somebody catches it. So,
Wow.
I mean, there's the delivery industry. If you look, this has been a takeoff for Grubhub and Amazon and all of the ones that had a place in the market, but weren't anticipating this to happen, and it has skyrocketed them. If you look at the NASDAQ alone, the stocks that are listed on the NASDAQ have despite all of the difficulties in every other industry, in the Dow and in the S&P 500, those have dropped significantly, but the NASDAQ hasn't. And that's because they were leading edge companies that took advantage. And they didn't take advantage negatively. They just were there, positioned at the right place at the right time for this to happen. So.
That's a good point. And it's so important to be observant of, what not just, and it's so important to be observant of what, and it's so important to be observant of what not is just taking place in your own world, but just in the larger marketplace. And I guess just to start with the first question, Bill, what advice would you give to the class of 2020, right? Most students have graduated or are graduating in the next few weeks and are thinking about, what in the world do I do when it comes to my career? What in the world do I do when it comes to my finances? What advice do you have for them?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I got 4 things which I would say to anybody before the pandemic, after the pandemic, and 30 years ago, I would also say. And,
wow.
The advice is easier said than done, but let me, if I could just cover those 4 items, maybe.
Please.
One is know who you are. Know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are. And let me just give you a good example. If you're a very gregarious individual and you love meeting people and talking to people, you don't want to be an actuarial. I don't care if you're an accountant, you don't want to be an actuarial because you sit behind a desk all day and run numbers all day and not interface. And on the other hand, if you're a very introverted person and you don't like being out there, you don't want to go into a sales and marketing job necessarily. That might not be you. And as you grow and as you develop in your life, you're going to see more and more areas that are particularly adept to you that aren't necessarily adept to somebody else. For instance, I'll give you a quick overview of me, for instance, to know who I am. I am not an entrepreneur. I am not willing to put my whole life on hold for my ideal to go after. So I'm not willing to risk all my finances, all of my life, all of my social engagements to run after an idea, which is what most entrepreneurs have to do and love doing, by the way. However, those entrepreneurs always need a number 2 person, somebody that can actually implement their ideas. And I learned over the years that even though I would have loved to have been an entrepreneur, I wasn't adept for it. And therefore, I realized I'm a good number 2 person. Give me an idea and I can run with it. Don't ask me what that idea is 6 months down the road, but if you tell me this is what I want to do 6 months down the road, I can get you there. So I realized in my career that being a number 2 person is what I need to be. So think about, in that regards, just who you are and what you like doing, and that will help you a lot as you start to define your job goals. So that's the first thing. The second thing is be confident. When you get out in that market, do not get discouraged. Do not dissuade yourself. You're gonna bump up against a lot of candidates in the job market. And one of the things I think that's very much going to be occurring, I could be wrong on this, but I think it's going to occur. A lot of people like me are said, enough now after this pandemic. We're going to retire, we're going to move to the country, and we're retiring. And it's going to open up a whole bunch of job opportunities. I really do firmly believe that a lot of people in the baby boomer generation, as I am, are going to make their way into retirement much quicker than they would have before. So I think this has prompted that along. So be confident in your abilities. Don't be arrogant. Don't be don't be arrogant. Don't be cocky. But just be confident, be humbly confident, I guess is the better word. So be
It's a great word, humbly
confident and listen. So as you go through this, and I use an old rule of thumb, and thank goodness it's never come true to the fullest, but you should think that for every 10 resumes that you send out, you're going to get one interview.
Mm.
And for every 10 interview, and for that one interview will probably be a phone interview or a Zoom interview. So for every 10 Zoom interviews, you're going to get one face-to-face interview. And for every face-to-face interview, every 10 face-to-face interviews, you're probably going to get one job offer. So it's a battle of the numbers. If you're putting out if you're applying to one job a week, you're going to be way behind the curve. If you're applying to 100 jobs, if you can find them within your field and apply for them a week, you're going to be closer to getting that opportunity that you're going to find when you start doing your resume. So hitting them out on the street. So be confident, know who you are. And then I'm going to say that what I think is the biggest one, start. When you get a job offer, don't turn it down. Please don't turn it down. Don't say, that's not me. I couldn't do that job. Or you might say, I'm better than that job, which you probably are. Doesn't matter. Take it. Start. Get in. And I'll give you. Got my accounting degree, and I got an accounts payable supervisor job when I started out from college with Motorola. Accounts payable. There's nothing wrong with accounts payable supervisor jobs, but it doesn't use an accounting degree to its fullest. And my recommendation is, but I started in accounts payable. I managed some accounts payable people, and I worked my way up in the company. So start. And even if you don't like the job, once you got your foot in the door, you got a resume filler to say, I got a job, I'm doing good. And you can piggyback off of that for your next job opportunity. It doesn't mean you can't keep a resume out there, and it doesn't mean you can't come up, but important, don't turn down the job, start them.
Yeah.
So, and what I found is, usually when you won't get a job, you'll get discouraged, you'll have to keep a stiff upper lip, but then when you do get the job offer, almost inevitably, another one comes in right behind it. You'll end up with two jobs and you'll scratch your head wondering, what am I going to do? Which one will I take? That's a luxury problem. At least that's what I've seen. And the last one is to set goals, but I won't go into major detail. I think I've talked enough for now. I'll let you ask some questions.
No, that's
set
great.
Some goals, set some short-term goals, set some 5-year goals, set some 10-year goals for yourself. 1 year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year goals. I found I was always 5 years behind the goals that I set. When I went back and looked at my 10-year goals, it took me 15 years to get there. But you know what? I got there. Without the goals, I don't think I would have got there.
Wow.
So know who you are. Be confident, humbly confident. Start when you get that first job offer, start. And set your goals. So sorry, I rambled a little bit there.
No, that's helpful. And I love how pragmatic it is, because we need a plan. A lot of the students are figuring out, what's my plan. So, my question to you all is what is your plan? I know many of you are trying to figure out what that is. And for those who need some guidance, that's exactly what you can bake into your plan. Before you start setting those goals, know who you are, be confident in your skills and abilities, and, be able to actually do the work and get those numbers up when it comes to the resumes and the interviews, because it is a numbers game, as Bill said, and then start. And I love that, Bill, because that's a clear plan of attack. So there's no excuses that, for you all to say that I don't know what to do. That's a clear 4-step plan of attack. And one of the things I wanted to actually point to, because I know, a lot of times, Bill, it's hard for students to have that confidence. And I know for myself personally, when you look at the job market and there is a clear job description that you may not ascribe to or fit, it kind of can be a little discouraging in terms of, man, I mean, I may have skill 1 and 2, but I don't have skills 3 to 7. And you may feel unqualified. So what's your advice on building that confidence as you go into the job market?
I think the confidence is it's going to be hard because I went through it too. When I left Motorola for a while and I decided I want to go back to work. So when I went back to work, it was hard to get that interview. But once you get that first connection, it's amazing. But to reestablish the, forgive me, I forgot part of the question there. So
no, it's fine. How did you go about building your confidence and because the second step you mentioned was to build your confidence or to be confident. The second step you mentioned was to be confident. What's your advice to students who may be struggling with their confidence?
Yeah, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. I mean, you're going to get more turn downs. Of 100, you're going to get no responses, for 99, for whatever that is, 90 of them, you're going to get no response at all, which is very discouraging.
Yeah.
The 10, you're going to get a phone interview. You're going to get, I know one candidate who literally was the number 2 guy on 6 different interviews, went through 3 or 4 different interviews and was always told that he was the number 2 candidate, never the number 1. And after 6 times, he was way down. But then the job opportunity finally opened up. Sometimes it takes longer than others. The best thing to do though, and again, I know this is crazy, find a job, even if it's less than what you're doing. Because once you get into that job role, you can go from there because it gives you the confidence. You can say, hey, this job is not what I was expecting. It is, I know I'm better than that, and you are.
Yeah.
But have the confidence to know that when you get in, or have the trust in me to know when you get into that job, you will see how well you do in that job. And you'll say, wow, I am really good. I am a good person because I can tear this job up. I'm great at this. And that will give you the confidence to say, and so I know that I can do some of these other jobs, and it'll build your repertoire. When you get into these interview cycles, you want to have the confidence, humbly confident, and listen to them, not talk the whole time like I'm doing today. But
hey, this is an interview. I want to hear from you.
Having the humble confidence that you can go through these jobs, and each interview you're going to learn. And from each interview that you do go through, and you're going to say, oh, I wish I'd have said that. In every interview, you're going to say, I wish I said that. And they're not going to, some of them aren't going to take you. But know that there is a job out there for you. That's the whole thing. There is a job out there for you that will be a job that you're going to really enjoy. So
I love that. There is a job out there for you. Remember that. There is a job out there for you, because it can get very discouraging when you are being rejected over and over again, but it really is a time for perseverance and for resilience. I truly believe that.
Yeah, don't lose hope. Do not lose hope. It can be frustrating, and you're out there with 100 other people in those things, and you'll learn each one. Your resume is not a fixed, I didn't want to get into this in this call, but your resume is not a fixed document. Every week you should be touching up your resume saying, I can say this, I forgot about this, and I remember it doesn't have to stay fixed. And sometimes you want to make them job specific. You never want to tell a lie, but you always want to be positive on yourself. Most of us underestimate our abilities.
Wow.
You have to think of yourself. I'm trying to think of the guy now. I'm trying to think of one of our infamous wide receivers, Antonio Brown. You have to be a little bit of Antonio Brown. You have to say to yourself, I have the abilities and the skills to do any team and to make them great. So that's what you need to have also, except I want you to have the humbleness though.
Right. Emphasis
I want you to
on
have
humility.
the humbleness more of a Stephen Curry, okay? So if you could do that for me, or of a Russell Wilson, if you will. So
that's a great point, because that's important. I think part of humility is being okay with having small beginnings, with understanding that, hey, we start small and it's moving step by step into that higher place. So I think that's super important to, again, have that confidence, but also be humble as well.
Yeah.